Raymond, that's you.
No, this ain't Raymond.
It is Thursday. I am Raymond, and you are watching RPadTV. Today's episode is all about Daredevil Born Again Season 1. I'm joined by two excellent friends, the wonderful Paul Semel on your top left, and the fantastic Marcus Beer.
Hello, darlings.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. This is actually the 100th episode of RPadTV, and I'm very happy to be spending it with you two fine gentlemen. So,
I can't think of anybody's show that I'd rather be on than yours, Ray.
I am very thankful that we made it to 100 episode. Looks like we made it. Whose lyrics are that? Is that Shania or something?
Yeah, something like that.
No,
Faith
wait.
Hill, Faith Hill, isn't it?
Oh, well, wait. There's
Still the one. That's the song, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's Faith Hill.
But isn't there like
Faith
isn't there
Hill?
like another song like "Looks Like We Made It"?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking of.
That's the one from the that's some yacht rock from the 80s.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I need to find the lyrics now.
I don't remember who it was though. It wasn't Shania. It was like one
It was
before
also
Shania.
a theme tune to a TV show. Wasn't
Wow.
it?
So it was Shania. You're still the one. Yeah, I don't know. It could be.
There was a one before that, which I think was a TV show, maybe a 70s TV show. Obviously Americans, because
Oh, Barry Manilow.
He did the original.
Barry
Right.
Manilow, yeah, not so much necessarily a TV theme, but it was used in
Yeah.
No, it sounds
1976.
It almost sounds like, like Love Boat adjacent kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yes, let's kick things off. There is going to be a minimum of graphics because I have a feeling all of us are going to have a lot to say about the episode. So graphics will be kept to a minimum, except for one screen shot that I have. Let's kick things off with our customary blue sky sized review of Daredevil Born Again Season 1. Paul, kick things off.
Okay. Me. While it was not as good as the best MCU shows, the first season of Daredevil Born Again was as good as the 3 on Netflix, and that's pretty good.
I have a feeling Marcus will disagree with you. What do you got, Marcus?
Ironically, my non-blue sky, because I don't do that level of social media anymore. Paul Semmel's an idiot. He was so wrong. No, okay.
What are you, my
It
mom?
says, after numerous cameos and teasers in other movies and shows, Daredevil is truly born again in this excellent show that is easily the best of the Marvel Disney series yet. It varies from the comics when needed and delivers a great balance of action and drama consistently across all episodes. This is the Daredevil we want and need rolled on season 2.
So I'm kind of in between, stuck in the middle with you.
With you?
Although I am closer to Paul. I do not think it's the best. Daredevil Born Again Season 1 was brilliant at times and tonally inconsistent at others. The action and leads were fantastic, but the adaptation of Muse was poor. Still, it was the most impressive salvage job I've watched, and I'm confident that Season 2 will be stellar. So for people that are not familiar with the show's production history, the show was in the hands of a bunch of showrunners that wanted to do something very different from the Netflix shows. And you can see their influence. They completed 6 episodes. Kevin Feige wasn't happy with it, and he got rid of them. He hired Dario Scardapane. I'm totally saying his name wrong. I'm going to call him Dario Scaramouche, who was a producer and writer on The Punisher show, brought in a bunch of talent from the Netflix shows. They produced episodes 1, 8, and 9, and they stitched up the 6 episodes that were already completed, did some rewrites, filmed some new content to try to make it fit in. And to me, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. We'll get into more of that later. Let's kick things off on a positive note. Let's answer one question first. We have a question from Black Cat, but why is it more brutal than the original TV show? To which I say, why not? I don't know, Marcus, you're a fan of the ultra violence. Why do you think? I don't think it was that much more brutal. There certainly was more graphic.
It was certainly more brutal. It was certainly, I mean, the fight scenes were great in the original Daredevil series.
Yeah.
But they were upped several notches, I think, in this one. I mean, and the way it started off with a proverbial bang. I mean, it was bloody. It didn't, pardon the pun, pull any punches. We saw blood. We saw Daredevil infected. And it was great. I mean, you could feel the catharsis. And, you know, making
very,
it
very visceral. Yeah.
Yeah, making it less brutal would do it, the show a disservice, would do Charlie Cox a disservice.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you look at, you know, some of the other books that, you know, Fisk is in, Punisher's in, I'm obviously thinking of, you know, some of the Marvel Knight stuff, Punisher Max.
Yeah.
I mean, that shit's bloody, and that's great because this is not a hero for, you know, for kids.
Right.
This is a rarity in this world where it's something for adults that doesn't last 9 seconds. It's not the fucking Minecraft movie. It's a billion times better than the Minecraft movie. It's quality entertainment that doesn't treat the audience like freaking morons.
Right.
So the brutality is a part of it because guess what? If you're old enough, you should be able to handle it. And if you're not old enough, you shouldn't be watching it.
Right. But for me, the violence wasn't gratuitous. It made sense in the context of this character and the tone they were going for. It's a fine line, but I think they got it right.
I can understand if somebody felt the head crushing scene was a little much.
But that served the purpose. Yeah.
You're right. But like, maybe, yeah, I don't know. But they could have cut a few seconds out of that and I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah.
Like, they sort of lingered on it a little too, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't have a problem with that, with gore normally, but like,
not even chipper gore.
I mean, how is that any less than anything that was seen on Game of Thrones?
Oh, it's not, but it's certainly way more than anything we've seen in the MCU before.
Right. A lot of people made the comparison to Oberyn's skull crushing with the detective Gallo getting, or Commissioner Gallo getting skull crushed.
Well, I mean, Wilson does that in so many of the comics, but with Black Cat's point, in a Disney Plus show, more brutal without censoring. Well, that's the problem with Disney Plus. Everybody expects it to be fucking princesses, animated fucking toilet seats, and Mickey Mouse. And that's the thing. Disney Plus is a horrible name for that system because, especially in this particular country, where 98.6% of the mid and the south are fucking morons. They're like, oh no, I put my child in front of a Disney Plus show and he came out and he tried to squash my head. Because people are idiots in the in Europe and the rest of the world. Disney Plus has been carrying this content for a while. This type of content, it's been carrying a lot of the Hulu stuff. Hulu no exists outside this country. Hulu not going to exist in this country for much longer. But Disney Plus carries the FX stuff. Right. For God's sake, I mean, some of the FX stuff is gory as all get out.
Well, just to be clear,
you can't censor it just for one particular market, or because somebody's offended because it's on a Disney channel. It's a grown-up Daredevil, a grown-up hero. That's it. If you want something a little less violent and a little more fluffy, go back to the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, where Matt Murdock as Daredevil represents Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Or try and find Spidey and his Saturday morning super friends. I mean, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. Why does everything, especially in the comic milieu, which has matured exponentially over the last 30 years, I mean, even a little longer, when the Dark Knight Returns rewrote the rules. Comic books are not for kids anymore, not just for kids. They have their books, they have their movies, they have their TV shows. But guess what? There's a whole generation that grew up reading some of the most gory stuff. And then those people need to be served too.
Right.
That's it. But you can use parent control. I mean, there's
right.
let's
get back on track.
The best parental control is the off button. Don't put your kid in front of a screen with access to Disney or anything else without having access. I mean, honestly, you want to see something that's more damaging than Daredevil on Disney Plus? Keeping Up with the fucking Kardashians.
Okay, we're getting way off track now.
You asked.
Let's get back to the show. Paul, favorite aspect of Daredevil Born Again season 1?
I like the part when Kim Kardashian crushed Chloe's head. No. For me, it starts with the cast. The cast, especially Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. I mean, we know how good they are. They've been good in the Netflix shows. They've been good in the She-Hulk and the Hawkeye show, and they were really, really good here. I also really liked the fighting. It actually reminded me of if you remember, there was a fight that Batman got into with a bunch of guys in Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me a lot of that fight where like you actually saw Batman get hurt in that. And in this, you actually saw Daredevil getting hurt as well. And then I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but I absolutely adored the bank episode. That one, that to me was the peak. That's one of the best single episodes of any Marvel's show. I love the dad from Ms. Marvel.
Yusuf
And
Khan,
him,
yes.
And his interactions with Matt were just great. So those were the things that I enjoyed the most.
And you, Marcus, I know there's a lot you loved about the show, but what would you say was your very favorite?
Foremost, it's the chemistry between the two leads.
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah. Charlie Cox is brilliant as Matt Murdock. Vincent D'Onofrio is a revelation again as Kingpin. I mean, we've seen them both at the ends of whether it be Hawkeye or in Spider-Man or in She-Hulk or whatever, in Echo. We've seen these characters and we saw them in the Netflix shows. But their reactions and the way the chemistry on screen is just amazing. There is this incredible loathing between the two characters, but there's also this begrudging respect, that's underlying in every way. So that's it. First of all, if there's any justice, I mean, following on from Colin Farrell deservedly getting awards for The Penguin, D'Onofrio and Cox deserve to be up there, especially considering the amount of tripe-pap that's on network TV nowadays. They deserve to be up there and considered for awards, as does the bank episode in particular. And this is going to be controversial, I reveled in the lack of Karen Page. Deborah Ann Waller is no doubt a fine actress, but her character was so badly written in the Netflix series, and here it didn't get a chance to piss anybody off, or me off in particular. When she was used well, but she wasn't this crutch. Matt had moved on, and we get to move on. And, you saw that in the interaction in the final episode as well. So, I mean, the cast were all top notch. Some of the episodes were absolutely out of this world. Excellent direction, excellent writing, amazing action. I mean, it felt like almost like a Marvel's version of a violent Batman comic. I mean, when Frank Castle is in there, you expect Frank Castle to be doing things that Matt doesn't like. But Matt, with the bank robber in the bank scene, snaps his freaking leg, loses his temper, and smacks his leg as he snaps his leg as he starts to revel in this dark side coming out again. So that was it. Mainly cast, performances. But there's so much to write. Set design, costumes are on point. The black and white ball.
Yeah, for sure.
D'Onofrio having dinner while Vanessa's ex is sitting in a cell.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just top quality TV across the board.
And so what I like most is how they portrayed Daredevil's powers. They made him even more comic book accurate, whereas the Netflix show is more grim and gritty. I like that they did things like when he would use his radar sense, the aspect ratio on the screen would change. Things would get a little blurry to, radar sense is tingling. The way they use the Billy Club and they CGI'd what they can do with it. They didn't do any of that on Netflix. And that was more, I always thought his Billy Club with the dental floss, which I thought it was when he was as a kid, that was one of the more unique weapons in comic books. And I love that they played that aspect of it. So for me, even though it still retains that grim and gritty feel of Netflix, it got even more comic book accurate, which I very much loved. Now, Marcus, you said you had many things that you loved about the series. Was there anything you didn't like? What was your biggest problem with season 1?
We needed some form of closure at the end of the season.
And this is a pet peeve of yours in general.
It is a pet peeve. Whoever invented the cliffhanger in TV season needs to be thrown off a cliff. I'm not a big fan of it. I figure give us a small victory with a bigger war coming, absolutely fine. But, this whole darkest before the dawn and the dawn isn't coming for another 12 months is just, it's a disappointment. It's got momentum. I would, especially as a 9-episode series, I would have liked the final episode to have been 90 minutes or even 2 hours long to give us some sort of victory,
No, I completely agree with that. But I mean, given the production issues they had, it's kind of...
I don't care. You asked me what I didn't like. So I'm telling you what I didn't like. I mean,
Right. And I'm just explaining why it ended up that way.
You can explain all you want, but you're not Kevin Feige. You weren't sitting in that office. With all due love and respect to you, mate. I mean, I just said this is what pissed me off. I don't need a justification why it was how it was. I mean, I'm a grown adult and it's relatively
right. No, I understand that. I'm just explaining.
So, I appreciate where you're coming from, but that's what I would have liked is something. I mean, a 2-hour Daredevil finish. Just finish off the season and then set us up for the oncoming war. That would have been just so good. Give us some small victory. So Wilson is so incensed for season 2. He's going to double down, and it's not as hopeless as half a dozen people meeting in a cafe with no superpowers.
So, Paul, I'm going to get to your answer, but just want to flash this question from Black Hat. But why are MCU movies more comedic than the TV series? Well, it depends on the context. She-Hulk was funny.
Yeah.
Daredevil isn't a funny character in general.
Eternals was funny.
Okay, sure.
I don't think it was supposed to be. No, Look, it's box office dollars. It's how much they spend and how much they expect to make back. And Joss Whedon and Jon Favreau and Ryan Coogler and all these amazing directors and writers who contributed to the MCU have balanced the darkness and the light, because you have the comedy and then it makes the gut punch all the more wrenching. I mean, I suppose it's standard script writing procedure, but I mean, Avengers Endgame, you don't expect to lose Black Widow. You don't expect Tony Stark to go. I mean, when Vision was gone at the end of Infinity War, you think, oh, he's going to come back.
Right. But again, it's
Gamora didn't come back. She came back different. I mean, it makes these things more visceral. It's like dancey, sweet, funny to you.
But again, it's the character. I don't.
Yeah, I think it's the characters as well. I mean, the quippy guys in the Marvel comics are, Iron Man and Spider-Man and whatnot, and Daredevil's never funny. It's like Batman. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, he's supposed to be have heavy Catholic guilt. That's one of his big things. And even the old comic books, like the namesake Born Again, it's from Frank Miller's original comics, where they had Karen Page become a heroin addict that ended up doing adult films in Mexico. And so it's the same. Like if there was a Punisher movie, I wouldn't expect comedy in that either. So it depends on the character.
Did you watch Dolph Lundgren's Punisher movie?
I did, with Lou Gossett Jr.
That shit was funny.
Not in the way they didn't.
But yeah, but I mean, the movies are more family friendly fare.
Well, that one had a pretty heavy body count. If I remember correctly, there's something like over 300 people died in that movie, in the Dolph Lundgren one.
Oh no, I'm not talking about that now. That was pre-MCU days. I mean, in the MCU, they have to keep it light and fluffy. Really, it has to be family friendly fare, because if they try to make it, you know, a little too smart, a little too diverse, a little too many women, minds blow, and we're like, oh, it's the worst show ever, worst movie ever. But on TV, you get away with that. Thankfully.
So, Paul, let's get to your biggest problem with Born Again season 1. And Black Cat, I'll save your other question for later.
Okay. Well, first, I like Foggy and I like Karen, and I like the actors who play them. I would have liked it if they had been in it more. That said, I think that how they were used in the story as is was spot on. I don't think that there is a way to get either of those characters into the existing shows this season without being awkward. But for me, the big thing was it took too long to get going. It took too long to get to that bank episode and for him to put on the suit and for him to actually be born again. And I just wish like some of the earlier episodes had been like, maybe just cut one out. And I don't even mean like cut the whole episode out. I mean, just cut little bits and pieces of earlier episodes. Like, I would have cut, actually, as much as I liked D'Onofrio as Kingpin, I would have cut back some of the stuff with him and his wife. I would have streamlined some of that stuff and just get to that point of him being Daredevil again quicker, because that's when the show got good for me. I understood the idea, like he's given up, he's not doing it anymore, he has to sort of be pushed into doing it, but it just took a little too long.
Right. I also agree with that point, and I think that's also a result of the two creative teams, you know, clashing between that. The original showrunners did not have Foggy, Karen, or the Punisher in what they shot at all. This was all added in with the new creative team. So they had nothing to do with the show. It was going to be more focused on White Tiger, on the new law practice, which seemed bizarre to me because that was probably the least interesting aspect of the show. Like, I don't want to watch. Yeah, I don't want to watch a Spider-Man movie about him taking photos. You know, like, it's not like I get that he's a lawyer and that's blind justice and all that, but I don't need. That's not what I want to see Daredevil do most of the time. Yeah, for me, it was the inconsistencies. I liked what the new crew was doing by bringing back the excellent John Bernthal as the Punisher, who actually turned down the original team because he thought what they wrote sucked, which I think is funny. And pasting in Foggy and Karen. I like the original shows quite a bit. And I thought it was a weird decision to make a new series that had nothing to do with the old series. I'm glad that they brought back a crew that tried to combine both. And I think both of the problems that you guys had with it will be gone in season 2 when you have one team hopefully doing the whole thing and, you know, get to tell the story they want to tell and not have to worry about, you know, patching other stuff, patching existing content in. There is another problem that we'll talk about specifically later, but let's stick on a positive note. Let's go back to the leads. So Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, if I'm not mistaken, outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., these two have spent the most hours playing Marvel characters than anyone else. And I think it shows in their chemistry, like Marcus was saying, but also they know these characters like inside and out, and they know when to play it up. They know when to be subtle. What do you think of their chemistry and how their performances evolved into season 1, Paul?
I really just wish they would fuck already. No, I mean, look, we said it before. You're right. The two of them, both individually and collectively, know those characters inside and out. They're really good at. They've made them their own. And you know that scene where the two of them are at like a diner and they're talking. Like everybody always talks about that scene of like Pacino and De Niro in Heat as being like, you know, two masters playing chess. Like it reminded me of that. It was very much that. And like you just kept waiting for one of them just to lean over and smack the other one with like a coffee mug or something. And they just didn't. And so those two are just really, really good in these roles. They were been really good in the Netflix show. They were good in Spider-Man. They were good in Hawkeye and
She-Hulk.
All around solid. Was it She-Hulk?
Yeah, he boned She-Hulk.
Oh, right. He boned She-Hulk. Right. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Because he's mad. Daredevil's a slut. Not that I'm slut shaming. I say
he
that.
wanted a piece of West Coast tail. Who blamed him?
So Johan was happy seeing Bernthal back as Punisher. Yes. One of the best matches.
Yeah.
Actually,
you know, I will say this. One thing that it literally just occurred to me as we were talking. One of the things they could have done with the Punisher and they didn't, and I kind of like that they didn't, is they didn't turn him into John Wick.
Hmm.
Like there's something sort of super heroic about John Wick and the way he deals with guns when he's in a fight. And they could have very easily turned the Punisher into that, and they didn't. They kept him a little more grounded, and I like that they did that.
Fair enough. Marcus, you love these two actors and the way they embodied these characters. How do you think, was season 1 of Born Again their best work yet as these guys?
I think so. I mean, I think for, you know, you look at some of the cast and crew interviews, and there's this, you can tell there's this immense respect between the two of them, and they've had these scenes back and forth, and as I said, I mean, it's peak performance from both of them. I mean, if you'd have shown me Men in Black 20 plus years ago and then said the guy who's the bad guy in Men in Black is going to be Wilson Fisk, I'd have been like, and if you'd have shown me Mystic Pizza and said that guy is going to be Wilson Fisk, I'd have definitely been
deep cut. Love it.
He has moved into, he has really slipped into this role, and he carries such presence with every word, how he commands a room. And that's why when it comes to the whole in front of police officers, I mean, that was the ultimate in, I have the power to do this physically and, within the scope of the city. I'm strong enough, because Wilson Fisk is always vastly underrated. It's like, oh, fat boy, blah, blah, blah. And then he rips somebody to pieces. I mean, he is a former, it depends on which way you look at what he was, a fighter, a former mob enforcer who works his way up. I mean, he's always been somebody who's been underestimated because of his size, and he's used that against people so well. And then you've got Charlie Cox, who carries, this Catholic guilt you talked about, carries that so much. I mean, you actually see that in Daredevil season 3 when he wakes up in a convent, or rather a church. But you see this Catholic, this Catholic guilt come through time and time again. But he's at the top of his game because he is so understated. He's the niggle in Wilson Fisk's side. He's the all right, I'm here, Wilson. You know, you're doing this and you're running the city. But guess what, motherfucker? I'm still here. And that is so well, so well executed that, I think it's probably outside of Robert Downey Jr., it's probably the most perfect casting in the MCU.
Yeah, I think it's a function of two very talented actors that are working with good material that have spent many hours playing these characters. So of course they're gonna take it to a new level, and I'm happy they did, especially with that gap between shows. And D'Onofrio always believed that he would come back as Kingpin. Charlie Cox was not as confident, but I'm so happy that they got their way, because our nerd lives are better for it. So getting back to some quick comments here, we missed a few. This one is weird. Why is Deadpool 3 more successful than Echo? Well, I mean, one's a movie and one is a series. So in terms of budget and talent, I don't think this is a fair fight.
That's definitely not a fair fight. I mean, Echo, I feel for Echo is way more difficult subject matter. I mean, everyone has seen Deadpool and Wolverine. You could have said, Deadpool and Wolverine, read the phone book. The phone book is something that young people won't remember. But people would have turned up, dropped their $20 and said, give me a popcorn, a limited edition popcorn holder. And then you got Echo, who is a more complex character than either of them. And you don't know where to place Echo in the pantheon. You talk about this when we need to talk about this when we talk about Muse later. So I feel that Echo got me, the disservice of being in the creative rut that was Marvel TV, in general, Marvel TV movies in general, that culminated in the most atrocious Secret Invasion. So you've seen all of these, and then you've seen that Kevin Feige, as you said, didn't want to make these same mistakes again. Shit canned the stupid direction, went back to smart episodic television that works, and presto changeo. I mean, if we get an Echo season 2, which is not likely, it will be different. But I think Echo is forever to be consigned to be a B character. And that's just the way it is. And it sucks. I mean, She-Hulk. I like most of the She-Hulk. Fourth wall stuff left me kind of cold. Would love to see it in She-Hulk volume 2. But yeah, when you're trying to do what Deadpool does, I just don't think it works as well. I think Tatiana Maslany is a great actress, and I would like to have seen a little more of the stronger female kicking ass, literally and figuratively.
It is based on those comics where she did often break the fourth wall. Not as popular as the Deadpool character in comics, obviously. Paul, why don't you? This is a weird one. Would you address this, Paul? Will DCU be like MCU? No, because I think
they're going to try.
I mean, I don't know.
For 15 years.
Right. So Johan says DCU is way behind because they didn't have a single showrunner controlling the storyline. That is not exactly true. Jeff Johns was their guy. He just wasn't good at it. And so that's why they have James Gunn in charge now.
Yeah, except that, I mean, not to go off on a tangent here, like with the DCU, they didn't have as tight a control over things. So like there was a whole thing I remember where they did something, I don't remember what, in the Justice League movie. And then when Patty went to go make the second Wonder Woman movie, she basically ignored it.
Right.
And so there's all these major conflicts in there that you don't have in the MCU, because Jeff Johns was supposed to do this, but he didn't have sort of like I don't know what it was, but maybe he didn't have the strength of the job to say, no, you cannot do something that contradicts what happened already.
Yeah, I don't think that's what his strong suit is either. He's not an organizer like the way Feige is.
Yeah.
And
And he didn't have a single vision. Like, it would be like, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Right. I mean, like, Zack Snyder had a vision of
right,
what he wanted to do,
right.
but then that got screwed up because unfortunately he had a family emergency. He had to step away. Joss Whedon comes in, does his thing, puts his spin on that movie, which undermined what Zack wanted to do. So yeah.
So, Paul, I'm going to keep the spotlight on you there. Favorite minor character
Okay.
in Born Again?
I really liked Cherry, who
Hmm.
was he was basically the investigator for the law firm. Clark Johnson, I thought was really, really good in it. People may know him from The Wire and
Yes.
Homicide, which is like kind of like, to me, that's like a cool, like we need somebody to be this very grounded, like street level character. Let's look at shows that, oh yeah, Homicide and The Wire. Yeah, that guy would be good. I don't think I would have wanted to see more of him. I didn't want to see him kicking ass or anything like that. But when he was there, he was like the voice of reason that
Right.
Matt needed, and I appreciated him for that.
I thought he was going to die for sure by the end of it. How about you, Marcus? Who is your favorite minor character?
Daniel Blake.
Yes.
Michael Gandolfini. Dad's boy, all grown up. I think he started off a little bit weak and in the shadows. But you saw that as he was getting a little bit more power, he was grasping when he moved up, sort of like the network or the ladder. When he fucked up, he had his mea culpa, and he literally begged for his life.
Yeah.
And you could see there was respect for him from Wilson. I can't wait to see what they do with him in season 2. As you know, he could have been labeled a nepo kid, especially after the Many Sons of Newark. But he just delivered such a great role as this somebody who's crying out for a father figure.
Yes.
And I think he sees Wilson as that, and Wilson could well treat him as the son he's never had. So yeah, I just thought he was brilliant, and I think season 2 would be it would be remiss if young Mr. Blake, 1, doesn't get more power, more screen time, and 2, doesn't get a fucking amazing comeuppance.
Are they foreshadowing his death when he told Fisk, "I will burn for you," and he's like, "I'm sure you will." I'm like, well, now we know how he's gonna die.
Maybe. I mean, it may be a literal burn or a figurative burn. Maybe he takes the rap for everything Wilson does, and Wilson spawns off again because he's a slippery bugger.
So I'm agreeing with Marcus here. He was also my favorite character. I loved his rise to power, where he was kind of mumbling and incompetent at the start, but as he was gaining more power and growing more confidence, at the end, he was all buttoned up with a tie, but at the end, he was showing off his chest hair, and he was just more relaxed sitting at the desk. I love that line where Fisk is looking out the window and it's like, "What do you see?" And he goes, "Starbucks." That line just cracked me up. But yeah, I think he was, I guess, the show's comic relief, but he was also used well in that you got to see another rise to power on a very different level. And I'm curious to see where they go with him in season 2.
There's a huge dark side with him coming.
Yes.
And
definitely.
Especially with, was it Ben Urich's kid?
BB, yes.
Yeah. Something is going to go wrong there.
Yeah.
He's carrying a flame, and I'm kind of nervous as to which way it's going to go. But there's a dark side with that boy that's going to end up with a mess for a lot of people. Maybe it's Daredevil who puts him in interaction.
Maybe, but it has to be fire because he said he will burn for Fisk. So let's see it happen. I have a feeling I know what episode both of you guys are going to pick, but Paul, your favorite episode in season 1?
You have to ask. It was the bank episode. The bank episode, to me, I think it was the most cohesive of all of them. It was fun. it had a sense of humor about it, but it was also serious. The interaction between Matt and Mr. Khan was just great. It had some nice twists that you didn't kind of see, including some that weren't really explained, but I'm sure we'll figure out later.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just like how like it wasn't a bank job.
Okay.
Or you know what I mean? Like when they first show up, you're like, oh, these are like some high-end bank robbers, and then you're like, why isn't that guy like more concerned with getting the money? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and there were like other things like that. It kind of reminded me. There's I don't remember the name of it. There's a Spike Lee movie with Denzel Washington. I know that narrows it down, about like a bank robbery.
That's actually the
like,
same bank that they filmed it in.
Is it the same? Oh, okay, that makes sense. Because it reminded me of that. Because in that movie, what you find out is that like the reason that there's something going on that is not just a bank robbery.
Right.
And I kind of like that.
Marcus, do you agree with Paul?
Yeah, pretty much. The bank was a stellar piece of televisual entertainment. Everybody on top of their game. Mr. Khan was great. It's the pride in his voice when he was talking about his daughter to Matt Murdock. And, it's like, you see the bobblehead? No, I'm blind. Oh, okay. But then also the touching bits in the vault where he was trying to, string the gunman along, the twists and turns. And then it was just capped with, as I said before, one of the best fights. I mean, Charlie Cox is there. He's wrapped something around his head. It's back to, season 1 Daredevil almost to a certain degree. And he kicks the living shit out of that guy. And, obviously gives him a freaking permanent limp. I mean, that kick to break his knee and shatter his leg. And
that was nasty.
That was brutal. I mean, this is not your mom's Daredevil.
Nope.
And the show was better for it. This was, as I've said before, I mean, one, it was Charlie Cox, again, being excellent as like Matt Murdock trying to manage all these people. Everything's happening. How do I keep these people safe? We get somebody out. We get this couple out. I'll stay here. I'm the blind man. They're not going to worry about me. And then I'll do this, 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 and this. And, the heart following the heartbeats and hearing things. And then this righteous anger that pours out of him in that violence in the end. You see that happen a couple of times where he's like, when he beats the shit out of the bad cops, or when, he gives Muse that first kicking. It just ticked every single box. It's one of the best pieces of superhero TV and one of the best bits of TV in general. And if it wasn't about a blind man who fights crime dressed as a devil, I'm sure it would have got a lot more traction than it actually did.
I love this episode as well, but it was my second favorite because it was a bottle episode. So I agree with you, Paul, in that it was the most coherent because it stayed in one location longer than any of the other episodes. But it also didn't further the story as much for various reasons, which is why I'm going with episode 8 as my favorite episode. I love the fights in that. I love the way the whole black and white ball was filmed, from the conversations to the action to them wanting to deep fry a journalist's hand. So many things I love about that scene. Just the use of color. It's the black and white ball, but Vanessa's wearing a blood red dress, just little things like that. They did a lot of the perspective shifting when he was using his powers again. That conversation that Matt has with Poindexter, saying that a good guy would take a bullet for his worst enemy, and then that's what he ends up doing at the end. Spoilers, but I just love the way the characterization, the technique, the way they filmed it. I don't know for sure, but the black and white ball, it looks like they almost wanted to do a one shot of just going from conversation to conversation, but maybe it ended up being too long, so they cut it up. But I could have seen it working that way. I just love the way that was filmed and done. So, guys, I just have a quick reminder that I'm giving away this beautiful water bottle that you see here. All you have to do is go to my Patreon page. There is a post called April Water Bottle Giveaway. You just have to leave a comment on that post. Signing up for Patreon is free. But if you want a paid subscription, you can do that too. If you're looking for other ways to support RPadTV, you can always pick yourself up a Proton VPN subscription. I love this product. It's great for protecting your privacy, protecting your data, accessing other streaming content by spoofing your location. So streaming services think you're in other countries. You can get up to 64% off a Proton VPN subscription by using the code go.getproton.me/sh10j. There is a direct link in the video descriptions on Facebook and YouTube. Now back to us, because that's why you're here. Now, going from Netflix to Disney Plus gave Daredevil's showrunners more money to work with. Were you happy with how they use that money, Marcus? What stood out to you the most?
Ray? You go first for once.
Sure. Yes. In the fight scenes, I mentioned the way I really like the Billy Club effects, just stuff like that. There's this one wire shot in episode 1 where he jumps on top of the building. They didn't really kind of do that kind of stuff in Netflix. So I loved how they used the money to make him more comic booky. I don't know if that's what other people like, but for a comic book nerd, I love that they did stuff like that. Give me more Billy Club CGI any day. And you, sir?
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, look, who doesn't love a good budget bump when it comes to these sort of shows? They've been underfunded for so long. So yeah, I mean, you could see it in the amount of cast, the quality of the cast, the locations. Let's go back to the black and white ball.
Yeah,
locations again. The fact that they can film in New York, and they're filming season 2 in New York right now. The VFX, and it started off so well with that fight.
Yeah, that was a great fight.
I mean, this isn't Netflix's Daredevil. This is something different, and it worked, and the VFX was great, and long may it continue. Keep backing it.
Paul, how did you like their extra budget?
I gotta be honest, I haven't watched the Netflix ones since they first went up, so I don't remember like what the difference was. Like, I don't remember thinking those shows looked cheap at the time, but I mean, maybe if I sat down and watched them, I'd go like, oh yeah, okay, I can see where the budget is. But
I wouldn't say cheap, but maybe constrained is a better word.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember thinking that when I watched those shows. But then again,
I mean, hallway fights are cheap, so that's why they leaned into it.
They could with the budget they had in those Netflix shows, and those Netflix did pave the way. I remember the first time I saw Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Coulson's car levitated, and I was like, "Oh, that's some ABC regular TV money." And it was all the worse for it. That show was, which is a shame, but yeah, I think Netflix did the best they could. With all the characters they did. I mean, my problems with that were just nothing to do with the budget. But yeah, it was great this time.
Yeah, I completely agree with Marcus. And for the record, I don't think all shows or all creators are better with more money. I prefer Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez with less money. But that's just me. Reservoir Dogs will always be my favorite.
Taika Waititi, I'd like him, when he's got a muzzle on him.
Yes,
so he needs to rein him in. But yeah, I mean, it's Jeff Jones syndrome. You either can control the budget or you can't.
Yeah, restraint can be a good thing. So I mentioned earlier that I had another big problem with this show, and that was the adaptation of Muse. I love this character in the comics. He is creepy as hell. He does some messed up things, even more so than what he did in the show. He has powers. He's an Inhuman in the comics for reasons. Well, the Inhuman show sucked, so they want us to stay away from that in the MCU. So I get why they didn't make him an Inhuman, but here he's just like a really good Taekwondo student. in TV Muse. His powers in the comics were he had like sensory deprivation powers, so all of Matt's other enhanced senses were useless when he was fighting against Muse. So that put them on even footing. I did not like this version of Muse at all. I thought it was rather generic. It could have been any character playing this role. Part of it, I don't know how much of it was how the character was written or how much that the new showrunner didn't want to do much with Muse. He wanted the emphasis to be more on Kingpin and Bullseye. That could have been a part of it. But Paul, what did you make of TV Muse?
I think he was, as you said, a means to an end. Like, they didn't want him to overshadow too much. I think they also wanted a character who would scare the crap out of the city of New York. And having a guy who is not just a serial killer, but then uses the person's blood to graffiti around the city, that would freak the fuck out of people. That's like some Criminal Minds, that's like, 3-episode Criminal Minds run kind of thing. So I agree with you that he was not everything he could have been, but I think more than you, I understand kind of why they did it the way they did it. They could have, I mean, and this is one of the things that I notice about this stuff in general is they probably could have just invented somebody.
Yeah, sure.
But they always seem like but it seems like everybody has to come from the comics. Like, and one of the downsides of that, I think, is that they will bring somebody in from the comics, but that person always has expectations. For example, you've talked about and privately about how White Tiger, like his daughter becomes White Tiger in the comics, and so now the expectation is that she will become White Tiger in the future.
That's his niece.
His niece, sorry. So yeah, maybe they're setting that up, but maybe they're not. Maybe they were just like, well, we need a character to get kidnapped by Muse. Let's make it White Tiger's niece. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I don't know why they don't make up more characters.
Sometimes it can work. I mean, Original Inventions gave us Harley Quinn. I think that's probably the best example.
Yeah.
That was an original character for the animated series. That's
a good point. Yeah. I mean, they could have very easily just created a serial killer and said like, oh, there's a serial killer and he uses people's blood to like paint graffiti and everybody's freaked out and not have him be Muse, have him.
He could be the muralist or something.
I was thinking they could call him Picasso or oh no, what's the name of the guy who like he would throw things like
Jackson Pollock?
Yeah, there you go, Jackson Pollock.
You could have made him a woman, and it could have been Ms. Paint, MS Paint.
That's fantastic.
Wow, I'm glad they didn't do that.
No, that's a good point about expectations. Like when I saw Muse in the trailer before the show came out, that got me more excited for the show because I love the character in the comics. So it was disappointing for me to get this version. But of course, it's not a big character. Like not as many people know him like the Joker or anything.
Right.
So this only affects I'm guessing a minority of people that watch the show. Marcus, what did you think of TV Muse? It was just kind of.
I'm with Paul to a certain degree. I mean, I wasn't aware of Muse from the comics. I've never really followed the Inhumans. I've always found them a bit boring. That's my own personal issue. I mean, then there was the TV show that was just pants.
That was just bad. That was so bad.
So yeah, I mean, it could have been anybody. It could have been generic Psycho number 36. I think Muse fell between two stools, with the stool being the first group that were making Daredevil as a courtroom drama, and then the second group who were making it as a proper show. And I think Muse was a casualty. He was a get from point A to point B, and oh look, here's the diversion. Is Muse the bad guy? Is Muse the big bad for the season? And he's dead. So it's. I mean, I don't have enough invested. And I think this is you are way more into obviously a lot of the comics than I am. I have my favorites. I like my Daredevil, I like my X-Men, blah blah blah, and a bunch of others, Punisher, etc. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with with Echo, with you and Miss Marvel. I mean, you have this huge connection to these particular roles, these particular characters, rather, and I can understand your disappointment. But to me, it was, and I think to a lot of people, and this is no disrespect to you, because I can see how worked you are, and if somebody pulled that shit in Doctor Who, I'd be pissed.
No, you're right. I think to most people, it doesn't matter nearly as much.
Yeah. So I mean, we know he won't be back, but he served his purpose. He was a distraction. He was kind of gory, kind of creepy. You kind of realized who it was.
Yeah, that was too obvious. Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't think he'll be back, but in the comics, he actually did come back from hell. So,
they sent him to Jersey, did they?
There was a funny moment after that fight with Daredevil and Muse, where it's just Muse's body in the apartment. The bad cops come in. Cole North just walks in the room and goes, "Muse is dead." I'm like, you don't want to check for a pulse or anything? I thought that was a bit silly.
I think it just goes to show the level of policing in New York is Daredevil born again.
Yeah. Marcus, I know you're not a fan of cliffhangers, but why were you unsatisfied with the very end of season 1?
It was the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
It was the cliffhanger. Too much was left hanging. We obviously got the little mid-credits of Punisher. Because we know Frank is incorrigible and almost immortal, but not John Wick, which I think was a great point there by Paul. The fact that they haven't turned him all wiki is kind of great. So that was my biggest issue with the finale.
Did you like it up until the cliffhanger?
I was so thrilled. I'd seen the trailers and I thought they were good. And my biggest issue with the 3 Netflix seasons, and in fact, all the Netflix Defender stuff, it was too long. There was this mid-season 2 or 3 episodes that would just drag interminably because they put so much exposition in, or it's like we have to lead you by the hand because you won't know who Matt Murdock or Karen Page or Foggy Nelson or whoever it is. And it moved at a fair clip. It moved at such a good clip and was so well paced. And I wasn't aware. I haven't paid too much attention to anything beyond the trailers. I've been trying to avoid spoilers and this whole production issue and reshoot. Wasn't too aware of that, and I didn't really notice it until you told me. But the show goes along at a fair clip. I believe that there's not one unsatisfying episode there, and that's why I thought a 2-hour finale would have been great. But otherwise, that finale up until that end, that section was just great. I mean, we saw Wilson covered in blood, and the line, a dead hero is better than a live vigilante.
Oh yeah,
and you had the scene in the hospital, and Matt's already gone. He gets to his house, and Punisher's there, and
their dialogue was great.
Yeah, I mean, their dialogue is whippy and snappy, and then you had this bizarre chemistry between Frank and Karen Page.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was an excellent finale up until I realized I was running out of time to actually have a denouement. I wanted a denouement, even un petit denouement.
I completely agree with you. I love the finale until the last 30 seconds. When then Matt's like, "We need an army," and then he has this army of losers. It's a retired cop, Cherry, Angie Kim, who is a cool cop, and then these other randoms. Oh, and Josie, the bartender, the owner of Josie's.
I think Angie Kim is somebody who is quite important certainly in the comic books later on, and I mean, I'm glad to see her in.
Yeah, me too.
It gets some airtime, but you're right. It was a disappointing army. I mean, it was like Dumbledore's army, but the army was a bunch of fucking drunks that they'd kicked out with broomsticks. But yeah, that was disappointing. But I think it was meant to be a message, and message is that even the most normal of people doesn't have to be a superhero to be a hero, because that's what we need in America right now.
Now I'm holding out for a hero, like whoever that was that sang that song.
I would
Bonnie
have taken
Tyler.
fucking Danny Rand, for God's sake. That's how bad it was.
Well, we'll get to that. Paul, I will pull a Baymax and say, were you satisfied with the ending of Daredevil?
I would say that I was not as unsatisfied as you guys were. And I think that is largely because I watch a lot more network television than you guys do. And so I'm kind of used to this. I think it would have bothered me more if we didn't know there was a second season coming. Because that's, to me, the issue with having a cliffhanger in a TV show is if the show gets canceled afterwards, then you're like...
Yeah.
And that has happened.
And that has happened. And in fact, it always reminds me of there's an episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon is into some show and it gets canceled at a cliffhanger and it drives him nuts. Except that at the very end of the show, he finally tracks down the creator and he goes, what was going to be, how is it going to end? And you see him on the phone and like, you don't hear what the producer says. And he goes, okay, well, that sounds terrible. I'm glad you got canceled, and hangs up.
Wow.
But yeah, so it didn't bother me as much. What I didn't like was what you guys just talked about was when he's like, I need an army, and he goes in his room, and I'm like, kick ass. Like, I knew exactly who I wanted there to be there, and none of them were there. And I was like, this is going to be cool, because this is where, where
Okay, I want to talk about what we want from season 2, but let's go through these 5 rapid fire questions first. Let's go Paul, Marcus, then me. Paul, kick us off. Is Foggy Nelson really dead?
Yes.
Marcus, is he dead?
No, because the hand.
I don't think he's dead either, only because he's come back from in the comics as well. And it's comics, so there's a lot of dead, not dead. Question 2. What was Karen Page doing in San Francisco? Paul.
She was enjoying their really good Mexican food. She was enjoying the really good Chinese food. She was getting annoyed at the micro the crap. I lost what I was going to say. I don't know. I have no idea what she was doing. I hope she was having a good time, but I have a feeling that she was just sitting there worried about Matt the whole time and, thinking about Foggy.
Any theories, Marcus?
Don't know, don't care. Maybe she was getting ready to book a plane ticket to Mexico. Don't know, don't care. Character needs to be better written if she's back for season 2. And given how they have written a lot of characters better in this season, I'm prepared to see her come back. I will acquiesce and let them bring her back if she's well written and she's not going to mope around and just get into, be an annoying pain in the ass. Like I said, I feel for Deborah Ann Wall, who is, a pretty tidy actress. She was great in True Blood. So yeah, don't care.
My theory is that she was in a throuple with Shang-Chi and Wong, and I'm sticking to that theory. What's an inappropriate line that you really wanted to hear in Daredevil season 1, Paul?
Kingpin to Matt, go fuck yourself.
Marcus.
Daredevil to Kingpin, suck my Billy Club, bitch.
Wow. Damn. Mine is when Matt was questioning the relationship between Karen and Punisher. I wanted Karen to be like, bitch, you boned She-Hulk. That would have been hilarious. So Karen said she got on a plane as soon as she found out Bullseye got out of jail. How did Karen get from San Francisco to New York that quickly, Paul?
Well, the headwinds go west to east. So the flight from West Coast to the East Coast is always a lot quicker than the flight from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Okay. Marcus, do you still not care?
Fucking broom.
Wong teleported her there because they were boning. That makes the most sense. Now, Paul, you mentioned who you wanted to see in Daredevil's army. Who did you want to see?
Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, the Lady Iron Fist, Misty Knight, Ms. Marvel, Kate Bishop, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Wong.
Colleen Wing. Her name is
Colleen Wing. Thank you.
Marcus, who is your Daredevil army?
What he said.
I'm going to go in an opposite direction because both those choices make sense, but just have a total loser army. Have like Swordsman, Echo, and Iron Fist, and the LARPers from Hawkeye. That would have been. This is my army.
And they're dead.
So Daredevil season 2 is being filmed now. We know that is going to be released next year before all the big movies, the Avengers and Spider-Man. Or at least that's the plan. Marcus, what do you want to see and what do you expect from Daredevil Born Again season 2? And is he born again?
I want to see more of Matt as Daredevil.
Yeah.
I want to see more bottom kicking. I want to see more head squishing from Wilson. I would like to see a couple of the fuckers who, Matt Murdock did cameos in their stuff. Repay the compliment, even if it's just for 20 seconds for Punisher to tell Spider-Man to fuck off or something. I would like to see some synergy there, and total winging it. I would love to see it set up Matt Murdock's involvement in the next 2 Avengers movies.
Oh, Paul, what do you expect and want from Born Again season 2?
I expect that it's going to be called Daredevil Born This Way with Lady Gaga as Typhoid Mary.
But he was not born blind. That was an accident.
That's okay.
Daredevil still born?
I think that it will be more cohesive.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Because unless of course they run into the same problem and they fire people midway through.
Fire Dario.
Yeah, they fired Dario Argento. What I really want to see is what Marcus just said. I want it to tie into the Avengers. I want him to somehow meet up with them. Somehow he gets connected to them, which is one of the reasons why I said I wanted Spider-Man and Daredevil, Doctor Strange and Wong to be part of his army, because I thought that would be a way of getting
for Doomsday.
Now, from what I understand, I mean, Spider-Man makes sense narratively and from the relationship in the comics, but legally with the relationship with Sony, it will be very next to impossible to get him on a TV show. For movies, Sony will make that exception. For a series, it's because it's a per appearance usage is what Marvel is allowed to do with him. So maybe 1 episode, but even then, would you want to waste a shot on that?
I think, honestly, my deep joy would be, especially if they turn Doom into the Beyonder, and in the original Secret Wars, everybody flies into Grand Central Park, where there's this huge thing that's appeared, and they get close, they disappear, the thing disappears, and that happens across different time zones. I mean, it happens, at different times. They don't all turn up together and vanish together. They turn up and then they appear together. So there's some wibbly wobbly, timey wimey there. So to see Matt Murdock follow his tingly bits to Central Park, and to see this and to pop his hand on it, and perhaps us knowing we're not going to season 3 for maybe 18 months to 2 years, because he is now going to be off, whether it's in Doomsday or Secret Wars. That would be great. He deserves some time. Charlie Cox deserves some time in the big leagues. I mean, if they can put Harry fucking Styles in the Eternals, they can put a proper actor and not a stunt cast in, in one of these 2 movies or both these movies.
Allegedly, he was really good in Dunkirk. I never saw it, but I don't know.
I don't care. He's still a twat from one director.
Hey, leave those poor boys alone. They lost one of their guys last year.
Look, I wasn't criticizing, this horrible what happened to that young man. But at the end of the day, Harry Styles is a bit of a bellend. I
fully expect that it'll be more consistent. I hope we get it's a whole season of episodes like 1, 5, 8, and 9, and that they keep going, keep doing what they're doing, and hopefully there's no hiccups that would cause the creative team to get fired. I love what Dario's team did with Daredevil, and to get a full season of just their creative vision. I think I would not be surprised if Daredevil Born Again season 2 ends up being the best Disney Plus show that Marvel has done. That is my hope and wish. Really fun talk with you guys.
Wait. Before we go, this is completely off topic, but literally just came into my inbox. So Star Wars Celebration in Japan, they announced a new movie.
Oh.
Star Wars Starfighter, which will open May 28th, 2027, be directed by Sean Levy, the guy who directed Deadpool and Wolverine, and will star Ryan Gosling. It is a standalone venture taking place approximately 5 years after Rise of the Skywalker. Film will be in production in the fall. Entirely new adventure featuring all new characters. Blah 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 blah. And then it just talks about how Levy directed Deadpool and Wolverine, Stranger Things, and Gosling was in Barbie.
And has very nice abs. Yes, we know.
So anyway.
No, that's interesting. I forgot Celebration was going on now. We are close to May the 4th.
They were going to do a Rogue Squadron movie with the Patty Jenkins, the Wonder Woman director, but that never really happened. Yeah. So, although I always had a idea that what would have been cool is to see Gal Gadot as one of those like blue or green ladies with the big like things off her head.
Twi'leks, yeah.
Yeah, and then to have her die.
Okay.
I have nothing against Gal Gadot. I like Gal Gadot, but like I just thought like I wouldn't want her to be the star of the movie, but it would have been like maybe that's like the impetus for things is that her character gets killed.
They could kill her character off as she's singing Imagine.
Hey, she does deserve a little bop for that. But thanks for watching, guys.
A little bop for that.
Let me know what you thought of Daredevil Born Again Season 1 in the comics and in the comments section. Hope you can come back next week where Mac and I will be talking about why The Land of the Lost is an underrated movie. Thanks for watching RPadTV. See you next time. Bye.
Raymond,